Hello, I'm Dr. Ellis Johns. I'm here with Dr. Danielle Dubray, Dr. Laura Wolf, Dr. Holly Pierce. We're here to present a healthy lifestyle program called 95210. Now, some of you have probably already heard of this about this program, but for those who haven't, just bear with us. We'll probably teach those of you who've heard about the program before some new things, so it might be worth paying attention. But regardless, we think it's a pretty amazing program. We think it could certainly change your life and certainly improve your life. So here we go. As I mentioned, we're all family doctors. Family doctors are kind of unique in that we care for both the young baby and we also care for that baby as it grows older and becomes a child or teenager. And as the child or teenager becomes even older and grows into adulthood, and even if that child or teenager becomes a doctor, we end up caring for that patient too. We also care for pregnant mommies and help deliver their babies. We also take care of folks like your grandpa. So you're probably starting to wonder what this has to do with healthy lifestyles and 95210. So in the United States, despite the fact that most of us start off pretty healthy babies, with a few exceptions, we have been getting progressively more unhealthy as we get older, and what that means is our future is uncertain as older adults. So the big deal with living unhealthy is that living unhealthy means you end up with more illnesses or more diseases than you would otherwise. Some of these diseases like diabetes or high blood pressure, otherwise known as hypertension, or increased cholesterol can lead to really bad things like strokes and heart attacks, which can really change what you're able to do. And what's worse for some folks is it requires them to go to the hospital. So when you have strokes and heart attacks, you have to go to the hospital and be evaluated and be placed on medicines. And sometimes we have to do procedures to open up clogged vessels and such. And hospital visits cost lots of money, and typically you have to see lots of doctors when you're at the hospital. And while I think I'm a nice guy, most folks would rather only see me when they need to. But there's good news here. This old, unhappy, grumpy guy down here, well, he's not you. You're young, and you can make changes. And the changes you make now can have lasting impacts on the rest of your life, which means your future is probably a whole lot healthier and happier. So what changes are you talking about? So what's the solution? Well, I'll give you a hint. It doesn't involve taking medications or vitamins or supplements. It doesn't involve having to get a surgical procedure done. It doesn't even require lots of money. It requires small lifestyle changes, and luckily there's a really simple formula we're going to teach you so that you can lead a healthy and productive life. We call it 95210. It stands for 9 hours of sleep per night, 5 fruits and vegetables per day, 2 hours or less of screen time per day, with an emphasis on the or less, 1 hour of exercise per day, with an emphasis on or more, and 0 sugar-added drinks per day. So that's 95210, and this is probably a good time to go into the details of where this formula came from. So the first part of the formula is each of you needs to get 9 hours of sleep per night. Now it becomes a little less as you get older, but at this time in your life, it's 9 hours. So why should you get 9 hours of sleep per night? Well, according to the National Sleep Foundation, which does a lot of research in sleep, it'll make you smarter. So that means better grades on tests and also improve memory and neuropsychological functioning. Well, that's that last word is kind of big, but basically it means that you'll react faster, your mood will be better, and And improved memory means probably scoring better on tests and such. Also, they have been able to show that you will have an improvement in your weight management. So for most of you, that means you don't gain as much weight as you would otherwise. So the next question most folks ask me is, well, that sounds fine and dandy, but how do I do that? Well, there are a number of interventions or lifestyle changes you can make that are pretty simple, and they can significantly improve your chances of getting appropriate sleep each night. Well, the first thing is to follow a regular sleeping schedule. That's followed by keeping your room dark while you're asleep. There are lots of neurochemical things that happen when it's dark as opposed to when it's light. The next thing would be exercising, which just so happens to be one of those other lifestyle changes we talked about. It turns out the more you exercise, the easier it is to fall asleep. Limiting your eating and drinking, especially of things like caffeine or chocolate late in the night. They help you stay awake longer, but also limit your ability to get adequate sleep. And then just taking a hot bath before you go to sleep turns out can help a lot. Yeah, just as an aside, since adequate sleep helps you maintain a healthy weight, you can have a more normal blood pressure, decreased incidence of diabetes and other illnesses, and then your mood is better, so you're a happier, healthier person. So the next step in our formula for a healthy life is eating 5 fruits and vegetables each day. And if you're wondering what counts as a serving of a fruit or vegetable, just keep it simple. If you eat an apple, that's a serving. If you eat a banana, that's a serving. So why eat fruits and vegetables? Well, the first reason is they contain all the stuff you need to look and feel good. So all those vitamins and minerals that you always hear about. There are actually a number of diseases, illnesses associated with not getting enough of the vitamins and minerals that are freely available in most of your fruits and vegetables. The second reason is kind of similar in that fruits and vegetables contain all the stuff you need to continue to grow into healthy adults, and also to maintain an active and healthy lifestyle. So it's hard to be an active person if you're not eating healthy foods like fruits and vegetables. One good example is most major athletes have nutritionists that ensure that they have an appropriate diet of fruits and vegetables, so they can do things like lift weights and run marathons like this girl here. But really, you don't need a nutritionist to eat healthy. You just need to make small changes like the ones we'll talk about in the rest of this presentation. And the last thing I'll talk about is they help prevent diseases or illnesses like diabetes, hypertension, which is high blood pressure, high cholesterol, even certain types of cancer. Is this at all sounding familiar? So the next question most folks ask me is, well, how can I add 5 fruits and vegetables to my diet? And the answers, well, are pretty straightforward. So the first thing I recommend is to ask your parents. Instead of asking for that bag of Cheetos or a case of Cokes, ask them for some apples, some bananas, a food that may actually benefit you. Next, make sure every plate that you prepare has an appropriate amount of fruits and vegetables on it. I see too many folks who fill up their plates with everything but fruits and vegetables. In general, about half your plate should be made up of fruits and vegetables. And last point, eat fruits and vegetables as snacks. So instead of reaching for that candy bar, reach for an apple instead. Turns out eating an apple a day can go a long way towards keeping doctors like, me away. So the next step in the 95210 formula is to limit your screen time to 2 hours or less. So you're probably wondering, what exactly is screen time? Well, screen time is anything where you're pretty much sitting on your bum watching a moving image. So that means if you're watching TV on your big screen or playing video games, or if you're watching movies on your cell phone or your laptop, all these things count as screen time. So why limit your screen time? Well, probably the first reason is we know that the more screen time a child has in his day, the worse his grades, the worse his problems with behavioral issues like violence and such. And there's also an association with body image problems. So body image problems are something that occurs when you see yourself as being unhealthy, but the reality is you're actually a healthy person. This typically occurs because you have seen a number of images that are airbrushed and just plain fake and don't reflect reality. So the next reason to limit your screen time is the more time you spend watching TV and playing video games, the less time you have to do good and healthy things with your time. We all have a limited amount of time in our day, and if the majority of it is spent doing screen time, then you have only a small amount to do things like homework and school and, oh yeah, exercise. Probably one of the more important things you should be doing with your day. So what are the best ways to limit your screen time? My first recommendation would be to don't eat food in front of the TV or in front of your computer. My next recommendation would be to break up TV or video game time with fun, active activities, like doing sit-ups during every commercial break, or push-ups, or pausing things and going for a run. So we've looked at 9 hours of sleep, 5 fruits and vegetables per day, 2 hours or less of screen time, and now we're at 1 hour or more of physical activity per day. So why would you want to exercise 1 hour or more each day? Probably the first thing would be stress relief. Exercise is a great stress reliever. It is known to improve your brain chemistry and help treat things like anxiety and depression or keep them from ever happening. It also leads to a better self-image, and it also helps you maintain a healthy weight. And lastly, your body was meant to move. There are very few times when it's a good idea for you just to stay put and not get exercise. So typically when we talk about exercise, we usually mean exercise that causes your heart rate to increase, and typically that means you're breaking a sweat. So sports are a good example of this, so like football or tennis or soccer, baseball even. And other activities like jumping rope or bicycling, they count just the same. The point is to do something. There's been good research to show that if you just walk, a brisk walk that causes you to break a sweat, 30 minutes a day, 2 times a day, there's a significant decrease in all kinds of bad illness type stuff, like some of the stuff we mentioned, hypertension, diabetes, increased cholesterol. All those things can be affected by exercise in a positive manner. But most importantly, it needs to be part of every day. So we know that if you can incorporate this exercise into your normal daily activities, more than likely you'll continue to exercise and you'll continue to feel better. For some, this takes the form of walking to school or to work. For others, it's like myself, it involves biking to work every day. It can be a lot of fun. So we've already gone over 9 hours of sleep, 5 fruits and vegetables per day, 2 hours of screen time or less, at least 1 hour of exercise each day, and now we're at 0 sugar-added drinks per day. So I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Dr. Johns, isn't that a bit harsh? No sugar-added drinks? That means no soda, no juices with sugar added? That seems like way over the top. Well, let me tell you what I know. In general, the more soft drinks and the more sugar-added drinks you drink, the more unhealthy body fat you tend to produce. And the more unhealthy body fat you have on your body, the more likely you are to have lots of chronic illnesses, like the ones we've talked about throughout this presentation. And there's another problem. Because of all the sugar-added drinks in your stomach, you can't fit good stuff, like fruits or vegetables. So your stomach is a container, just like a milk jug or something similar. If you fill it up with one thing, well, you can't put as much of another thing in it. So what do you do if you don't have sugar-added drinks in your diet? Well, probably the first recommendation would be to drink water instead. Your body is about 70% water. It needs water, and it doesn't always need the sugar that folks have been adding to drinks. Next, you can read the labels. So sugar is hidden in all kinds of things. Everything from ketchup to ranch dressing has sugar in it. Believe it or not, sugar is addictive. And manufacturers put sugar in things all the time so that you'll buy their product. And remember, the target you're shooting for is no sugar-added drinks. You may not always hit the bullseye, but you want to get pretty close if you can. So that's 95210. Remember, it's meant to be fun. It's a guideline. It gives you a target to shoot for. And you may not always hit the target in the bullseye, but if you get pretty close, there's a good chance you'll live a long, healthy, and happy life. If you're looking for more info, there are two sites you can go to. Tippingthescales.net is the Virginia 95210 site, and 95210.org will help you track your progress if you have time.